Okay, let's hope you can hear me. This talk today is called, or that we're just about to go into, starting and running your own Squarespace agency. All your questions asked and answered. And by questions, they will be me that are doing it. Oh, you can hear me. Awesome. Wasn't like sweat inducing at all. Okay, let me just start adding some of the people to the talk. Invite Tasha first, and then I'm going to go to Dave. We've got like, this is the most amount of people that we've got so far. Yeah. Let's see how this looks.
Hi.
You look very pretty.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can.
I've been terrified. I've been watching.
Oh, you've been terrified.
I've been loving this. This is so informative. I've watched since 1 o'clock. I love it.
I'm so pleased. Hey,
Hey,
Dylan.
babe.
Hey.
Oh no, I'm putting Dylan in the wing.
Sorry. Hey guys.
Hey, Krish.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, Dylan's not in the wing.
Great. Hey guys.
There we go. Hey.
Oh, isn't this fun? Okay.
It is.
Let's just check there's any chat. There's a question. There's a fun mark from Daniel. Okay, I'm gonna make you guys. No, we're gonna do this. We're cool. Okay, well, that was fun when my mic went. But you know, thankfully, all worked out in the end. So I'm just going to get to my Google Doc up where I've got my notes written for our chat. I think what was happening, by the way, guys, was my mic was hooking up to my phone, and every time I would start a new thing, it would go on there, and I think I cancelled it, and then it started playing havoc. Okay.
I think you did great. So
yeah, thanks. Okay, so I got you all here today because when I went to Circle Day in New York, I met lots of designers and stuff. But it wasn't until I did the UK Squarespace meetup that I got chatting with all you lovely people. And I know some of the UK people on here are like, oh, it's really nice to have UK designers on here because normally it's quite US based. And I loved meeting all of you because you all had agencies, and I didn't know anybody that had an agency. And I found it really interesting because the way that I work sometimes, I think a couple of you would say, well, that's kind of agency because I've got a graphic designer friend that I might get to do more complicated logos, or I might get this person to do something, or I schedule a photographer to do a shoot and I creative direct that. So it's kind of like, I'm like, oh, well, I don't consider myself an agency, but I feel like I can do a lot of those things. And I'm like, so I don't feel like an agency. I feel like, well, I know you guys definitely are, but I wanted to, like, for me personally, to understand it a little bit more. And for the people that are joining today, I thought it'd be really interesting for them if they think, well, I'd like to scale or grow my team. I don't really know what that looks like. Do I have to hire people? Do I have to make them full-time, contract, blah, 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 blah. So what I've done is I've got like a little intro and I've sent it over to you guys in like, can you do this elevator pitch with these questions? So I don't know if you've got them or whatever, but the things that I wanted to ask you all is like, name, how long you've been a designer, how long you've had your agency, what you would describe your agency like, and how many people you employ, contract, full-time, do you remotely have an office, and why you decided to create an agency model for business. So I'm hoping like this might go over a little bit if we can do that, and then I've got some more questions, but I feel like that might take up a little bit of time. But yeah. We'll go with Tasha because you're top right in my screen.
Okay, perfect. So, hi everyone, I'm Tasha. I am the newest person here to have an agency, and I actually look up to all three, Dylan, Krishna, and Dave. And I've asked you guys many questions about building an agency as well, so that's really cool. My agency is called the Square Agency, which is really unique and direct. And I have been in the world of Squarespace for many years, since 2017, and been freelancing until last year, where I reached a point where I just felt like I needed a change. And after doing some, I would say, soul searching, I figured out that an agency was actually what I wanted. And an agency can be anything. Just like Liz, I was also working with creatives, bringing them onto projects. So how like the real shift actually really happened with employing people, and that just really helped me be more in a mindset of an agency, really. So right now, I would describe the Square agency as, just like many of you, building custom websites for businesses worldwide. What sets us apart slightly is this element of consultancy. So I'm really passionate about like business and solving business problems. And as we all know, Squarespace is so much more than just a web builder. Squarespace has this entire ecosystem of tools that allow businesses to have this all-in-one solution. So when working with clients, I really like to take a deep dive into their business and then suggest either other software or Squarespace tools to help automate their workflow. And this really moves their website away from just being this static website that just brings in maybe the odd lead here and there, to a website that business owners and entrepreneurs actually love to use. And it kind of like integrates into their workflow and just helps them generate leads, generate passive income, and grow and scale their business. Another question you had here, Liz, was how many people do you employ? So I'm quite new from last year, so I only employed 2 people. Both of them are part-time at the moment. So I have a creative assistant. She helps with a lot of internal tasks, a lot of emails, a lot of like onboarding clients, things like that. And then I recently hired an editor to help with content creation, because editing is the worst thing that I have ever found. So like hiring an editor is just a game changer. So there's a lot of content coming, which is good. Do you work remotely or from home? So I work from home. Since the pandemic, I've been working from home. And I actually recently moved. So my office is quite empty right now, but my Pinterest board is looking good. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, why did I decide to move? As I've mentioned, I just reached a point where I actually got quite bored with my business. I felt like I was designing the same websites again and again. And I really like challenges, so I wanted a challenge. And this has definitely been a challenge, but it's been really fun and very like rewarding and transformative.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Krishna, were you going to say something?
I am gonna. Can I just? My little one might come and interrupt and just say hello because she's not gone to bed yet.
Oh no, it's totally fine.
We're on strict rules, but still, we break the rules over here every now and again. So
don't worry about it.
happens
Don't
when
worry
you're
about it. And
aging in with the family.
And if somebody comes in,
I'm gonna.
She can say hello, or you can just mute your thing as well. Like if that's the case, if you.
Yeah, I think I'm. I can't find the mute button, which sounds really daft.
I can mute you. I've muted you. I think I've muted you. Okay, Dave.
So yeah, I'm Dave.
Tell us your name, Dave.
So I run an agency called Made by Dave & Co. And I've been a designer for 10 years with Squarespace. So basically stumbled across Squarespace in like 2014, and the rest is like history. Basically, it started as a side hustle and then turned it into an agency and now a full-time job. So
you went directly from web design side hustle to agency as soon as you did it full time.
Well, essentially, I managed to win more work than I could actually do. And so in that sense, it was my spare time, evenings, weekends, that I was only going to commit like an amount of time to it. And I was wanting that family life balance. And so in that sense, I had too much work. So therefore I needed to pass stuff over. And so then the team started to form in that sense. It was every now and again that I might have had 1 or 2 projects that then needed doing, that turned into, oh, actually some more has come in. And over the last year or two, it's been a case of actually we've had like back to back of just constant stuff coming through, which is wonderful. So yeah, agency wise, it's been running for 5 years. And the number of people that are in the team, we've got 8 plus myself. So what that works out as is like 5 designers, then 2 developers, a content creator, and a virtual assistant. So yeah, going back to what like Jen and Drea were saying, that the people that are part of our team are all freelancers who are all part-time, but I've essentially like found them in my back garden. And so they're either like friends of mine or they're former colleagues. They're just people that are essentially like in my trust network. And so in that sense, there's a lot of trust that you put into people that you end up connecting with. And then what does that going to look like? And so, yeah, in that sense, I've found people that may have not necessarily known Squarespace like inside out, but they have like a real eye for detail on design and they just know what they're up to. And so then teaching them Squarespace is almost like the easy part. So most of the team are all in the UK. And so in that sense, we're all remote and we can just check in with one another. So yeah, that's a little bit of a background on this side.
Thank you so much. And should we go to Dylan, or are you okay? Yeah, let's go to Dylan and then Krishna, like if she a bit longer for the kid. Okay.
Hi guys, so yeah, I'm Dylan. I started freelancing probably about 9 years ago now, I think, but I started off not using Squarespace. I think I used to use like Weebly back in the day, long time ago. I started, I think, with Squarespace maybe 6 or 7 years ago, something like that, and basically did it as a side hustle for a couple of years. Around 2018, I was actually studying at the time. I dropped out of my course and went full time in with the business, but I was basically freelancing full time. And then I think probably a year or so later, again, once I kind of got to that point where there was too much work really coming in for me to handle, like sustainably, I decided to try and bring on a team. So I guess I started hiring a team probably in about 2018, something like that. I think since that point, I've definitely been through a few like iterations of the business and how the team works. I had like a kind of an offshore team, and then that ended up not working out. Then I had someone in-house on payroll. That didn't also work out for another reason. Then I went back to freelancing for a bit, and then about 18 months ago, I started to kind of rebuild the team, but with all of the learnings and teachings that I'd had along the way. So yeah, I would guess the current kind of model and team started probably in 2022. In terms of what we do, it's pretty much, like Tasha said, building custom Squarespace websites. We do quite a bit of custom development work. So we do like a lot of custom coding, integrations. We also do a lot of like white label work for other kind of branding agencies or marketing agencies who might have a design done, but they've got a client that wants it done on Squarespace and they don't really know how to do it. So we'll take a design, build that all out in Squarespace for them. So it's super kind of easy to manage. So that's
how the white label agency people, how do they know about you? Is it SEO or you've just got an invoice?
So they've actually just found me. So normally they might have done branding, for example, for a client of theirs, or PR and marketing, and then might have done like a design for the client's website. But then the client might throw like a curveball for them saying, oh, we want it to be on Squarespace. So then they have to go and look for developers that can build it out. So they've kind of found me that way. And then we've done repeat work for them because they obviously have consistently branding projects coming in. And then I also met one of the other agencies at Squarespace Circle Day in the US 2 years ago. So that's been a really good partnership to have. I've done, I don't know how many websites, like a lot of websites for them. And it's always kind of taking on like the more technical parts of those sites. So that's been really fruitful. In terms of the team size, we're same as Dave, 8 plus me, so 9 in total. I've got 4 full-time, like 40 hours a week, there's 5 designers, 4 of them are kind of full-time. The other 3, I've got 2 admin assistants. One kind of does more sales stuff, one is more of a VA, and then I've just recently hired a ops manager, project manager, who's also part-time. He's doing about 20 hours a week. But as a team, they all kind of come together, and you wouldn't know really that they're part-time or full-time, whatever. Some of them are freelancers as well. Well, 2 of them I think are freelancers, but yeah, everyone just kind of coordinates on Slack. We've got like daily meeting, or not daily, weekly meetings that we have, and we do like daily check-ins and that sort of stuff. So it does feel like a team. Everyone's remote. So I've got people in Canada, Spain, Nigeria, Philippines, so everyone's kind of spread throughout. And in terms of, I guess why I decided to do it and transition away from freelancing, it was really just about, servicing the need for the work that was coming in, but also getting a bit more leverage, and being able to use, like, if I'm not spending all of my time doing everything, I can then spend my time on tasks that move the needle a little bit more in the business, and I can kind of work on the business a little bit more. So yeah.
Great. Oh, thank you for sharing. Okay, Krishna. I'm trying to unmute you. No. God.
It's in the bottom right, it says.
Would you like to request control of? Yeah. Okay. So Krishna.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Hello.
Cool.
Can
And
you
I'm
hear me?
really sorry to rush you. We've got like 10-15 minutes at the end. So like if you can quickly do yours, and because I want to ask some more questions
Absolutely.
techie. Sorry, Krishna.
Honestly, it doesn't matter. It's fine. I'm happy to be here regardless. So what was the question? My name is Krishna Solanki. I have a small and mighty branding and Squarespace website design agency based in Cambridge. And our main target audience, or the people who we work with, are established independent businesses, SMEs, startups, agencies. I mean, that's quite broad, because it almost feels like we kind of pick up work through referrals and recommendations. So because we work with independent businesses, that's some of the networks that we kind of hang out in. When I say we, it's just me, but we have a handful of associates. So similar to like the rest of the guys here, Dylan, I've got to really admire the fact that you've gone into like the full-time position and hiring people full-time. So on that note, I have dabbled in that, and it's probably going to be in the radar, but I'm still thinking it and overthinking it, if I'm honest. So at the moment there's 5 of us, but my pool of freelancers is in this little KSD black book. So I just I go through that list and see who the best person is for the job, and then I'll reach out. So stably, I would say we've got a couple of copywriters, developer in the US, developer in Plymouth, and the pool is growing. Designers as well. There's a couple in Cambridge where I'm based, and it basically depends on what the project requires, how big it is, and who I think would be the best fit for that project. So if I think about copywriting, one of the projects we've got on at the moment is for a sustainable biophilic plant company that goes into businesses and like makes a business look really aesthetically pleasing and somewhere you want to work. So for that I've got a copywriter who focuses on like sustainable copywriting, and she loves that kind of area of work, so she was perfect for the job, so we picked and chose her. And that's how it works for us. So it is predominantly just me, because clients seem to like love the fact that I'm client facing, but at the same time I do bring in the freelancers or the contractors or the associates, however you like to think about it, and they come in. They don't all have client facing, but it depends on the individual. So if I put it into perspective, last year we were kind of trialing putting developers in front of clients and seeing how that worked. Some of them were really up for it. Some of them naturally introverted, didn't really fancy that job. So we kind of make sure that we're listening to the people we work with as well as the clients and bring them all together. And I think that's really key, because I never want to push a designer or a developer or someone who knows their skill into doing something they don't want to do, because it just makes it painful for everyone, I think. So that's how it kind of works. I know I went off on one, so just jump in. And
I really enjoyed, actually. I think, to be honest, I think now I'm just going to sort of start asking questions. So what you were saying there. So say if I had like my business just got overwhelming, and I was like, I need to start having some people, and I know some Squarespace designs I really like and I feel like I could trust. So say if I was like, okay, I've got 3 jobs on, I can only do one myself this week and I've got 2 others. Now I could hire like my friend or somebody to design it for me. My package is £6,000. So say if my package is £6,000 and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get them to do it. How would you guys, and I don't really know who to ask, I'm going to ask you, Krishna, because we're talking, but like, how would you give them like £3,000 because you're going to have the overall thing, you've brought the client in and you're maybe going to visualize the brand and they sort of execute it and you trust their design? What would you pay them?
The way I've done it here is it's more a case of, because essentially we've done all the hard work of bringing the client to the table. We've done all of that, finding them, trusting them, they trust us. And then it's for example, we find the right associate and we work out what's beneficial in terms of time, money and value. So value is quite key here, because I don't charge on, like, I used to charge like per project, and I do charge per project, but it depends on the to that client. So for example, one of my independent established businesses, they might have a project that's the same as an agency, but the value is different for both of them. So it's almost like you have to judge that quality of lead that comes through and then kind of work out what would be more valuable for each prospective lead and then translate that. Now, if that means I've brought in an associate for an established independent business, the rates are going to be slightly different to the rate for like a bigger agency for a white label project or something like that. So when I'm thinking about the project associate, I will think about things like, what are their fees? What are their charges? What's the investment that I'm making in them to bring them into the project? And is it more valuable for me to take a hit on it and bring them in? Or is it more valuable for me to follow the cost or put a project management fee on top of it, if that makes sense? Because essentially I'm still doing the creative direction of making sure that the client's going to be happy with the work that they're conducting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, it's going to be an element of time management. I have to give them the job, but I also work out that, you know, you've done the handover. I understand what you've designed or developed. Does it make sense for what the client wants? Because at that point, if they turn around and say, oh, it's not what we want, they've wasted their time. My time is wasted looking after that management element of that project, and the client isn't happy either.
Okay.
So
no, yeah. I've got it. And I think from the sounds of it, you like pay per project, find your associate. Tasha, I feel like you're a similar thing, that, you know, per project. But Dave and Dylan, you have more like a contracted hours that you work with with your team. Well, you're full time, Dylan, right?
Yeah, so for the majority of the designers, 4 of them out of the 5, they're all on 40 hours a week. So that's up to me to allocate their time as I want. So really my job as the owner of the agency is to bring in the projects that, in theory, as I'm selling their time, essentially, that they can deliver as efficiently as possible. So really what Krishna was saying is so important. It's about vetting the leads that are coming in, because if I take on a project and the client turns out to be a nightmare, or, you know, whatever happens, it drags on and on and on, that's using up some of my resources, which is basically one of the designers on the team. So I'm not I don't do it on like a per project basis. I don't budget really in terms of, okay, we've got this budget for the designer development of a project. It's more about, okay, how many hours of my designer is it going to take to get that over the line? And then, you know, you can use that. But really, I come at it more of from an angle of allocating their time and managing and protecting their time as well, because that is what we're selling essentially.
And I was wondering, because I've spoken to Dave about this when we've met in person, when we've spoken about our like business flow and what we need, and like, you know, I think Dave has like a 3-month thing, right? And that's what I'm sort of aiming for at the moment. I had it at the end of last year, but then I went to Thailand. And then, so what do you like? Can you all just quickly say, do you have like a safety net or a float? Like Dylan, like, do you feel worried like that you've got to have 40 hours of a week for like 3, 5, 6 people. Krishna and Tasha, yours is project based more. Like, what do you do, Dylan? Sorry to be asking you again.
Yeah, no worries. It doesn't kind of concern me too much. In touch wood, we've never had really an issue where, you know, the designer's just sat there doing nothing and being paid for it. But you do have to be on top of it. You have to, like, I can give you an example this week. Even like one of my designers was working on a couple of projects that were basically coming to the end, so they were more just kind of by for any like tweaks or feedback that might have been needed, and then I had to, you know, get another project ready for them to kind of go as soon as they were basically, or as quickly as possible after they're like done with the projects that they're working on previously. So I think it just requires some planning. It does also, I think you're going to ask this separately as a question, but in terms of like having a float for the business, that is important for sure, and it gives you peace of mind, but it's not really like a substitute for bringing in enough revenue to cover the costs of the team, because I would never want to, and I haven't, again, touch wood, been in a position where we've brought in less revenue than the operating costs of the business are. So it's always, and I'm constantly kind of checking what's coming in through like the sales funnel and the leads, to make sure that that's going to cover it. And obviously there are times when you've got loads of leads coming in and you know you're good, and then there are times when maybe it starts to dry up a little bit and you just have to monitor it more closely. But yeah, that's how I kind of approach it. I just always try and make sure that there's more leads coming in and there's more projects that we've got coming in than the team can really handle. And then you can kind of scale the back end of the business and the team to meet that demand in a way that feels kind of comfortable.
And you've all kind of really got to be really on your leads. Like I can just get in like one great client, and I don't have many calls booking in all the time, but when I do, I generally sign that client, and that can last me, you know, that's 2 months worth of all of my bills with one client, right? So that's sort of how I see it, and I see it more from like this small little business person, me, not like you're just like, okay, well that's covering that person that month or whatever. Like it's quite different mentality, and like I feel like, and like Dylan, I feel like I don't know how much design work you do when you're allocating and you're trying to run these businesses. Like Dave, how much actual designing do you do? Tasha, how much designing do you do? Are you quite involved in the design, or is it like I'm a business owner?
So first off, we stack projects because you have to, and it's a case of needing to stack quite a lot and almost trying to have enough that's kind of ready waiting for team to come through. And but then in terms of needing to the other kind of tricky thing of like getting extra jobs in is quite often a potential client might want something like to start in 2 weeks' time, and they're not the sort of leads which are like, oh, in April or May I'm happy to go and start. They're like, oh, actually, can you start next week? And we're like, no, we're busy. So we've got like a 4 to 6 week lead time, which then puts people off. And so in that sense, yeah, you have enough that's of leads that are coming through. But yeah, that's kind of a bit of the tricky one. In terms of then the percentage of what I go and do, I'm probably designing about 80%, and then the business side of things is about 20%. So I'm probably on the opposite hand to maybe where some others are at. That's purely because I went into running a Squarespace business because of my creative outlet. And so in that sense, if I was just doing the operations or the project side of things, I'd have got bored. And so I don't want to just pass off things like that. So in that sense, what I've gone and done is then taken the things that I don't like doing in that sense. So whether it is admin or something equivalent, and then I'm like, okay, who's an expert in that? And then I'll bring them in to go and do it, because otherwise you look at your skills and you think, okay, actually, I'm a very expensive admin for my own business, or I'm a very expensive such and such for my own business. Let's say you need to write some content, but that's not naturally your thing, but as part of your marketing, you need to get some stuff out there, then it's like, again, who can I bring in and who can go and do this? So yeah, that's sort of approach.
And Tasha, like, what advice would you give to anyone? I'm gonna have to close this down soon. I wanted to chat to you and ask you loads more stuff, but like I think because there's more of you. But like, what advice would you give to anyone that's thinking of going down this route of creating an agency?
I just want to say something about the float.
Yeah, please do.
I think it's important because I completely resonate with what you said, Liz, about like one project sorting you out for 1 month or a couple of months. But it's very important to have a float, even if you are not an agency, you're just a one person, because a float basically allowed me to have time to transition into an agency, also invest into skills. Like, for example, I worked with Henry from Squarespace during this transition period, and I was comfortable enough to take a step back from my business for a couple of months, honestly, while going through this transition. I was still working here and there, but I wasn't like eagerly relying on those projects. So a float really gives you a lot of freedom and a lot of just space for you to actually take risks. So I would recommend building a float. And yeah, sorry, what was your next question?
Just what advice you would give, but what I might actually do is I might just see if there's any questions in here. There's like, how do you stack your clients, and do you use any external plugins to track your sales? Who wants to answer that?
For stacking, I would recommend Sam, if you can share your Loom video on stacking clients. Perfect explanation. So definitely Sam is your go-to for learning how to stack.
Well,
but
15 clients stacked at a time with one person. Very not my vibe, but like I know that it's going to be for like the hustles on here. Right, I sure that I want to ask you loads more questions, so I think what I'm going to do, put it in the Q&A and just ask a few of you some other things. But like normally in something like this, I would be like, okay, I've actually got something I really want to share with you guys that you've not asked me. Is there anything like that you want to share about like having an agency, what you think is people should know?
I've got something to say on that one.
Yeah,
I think people should know it's not. It can give you sleepless nights, because obviously you're thinking about, if someone's a full-time employee, you've basically got to think about you're paying their mortgage, because obviously they're trusting you and you're running a business that's going to help. You're paying them essentially. Whereas when you're working it out in terms of an associate model or freelance model, you're bringing in contractors in, you're paying them when you know how much financially you can either give to them, so you can kind of have that in the back of your head in that float element. But if you take someone on, I think it's a very different ballgame, because you've got to think of, from an employee perspective, if you're doing it the right way, which is something I've overthought towards of last year and currently doing now, the things like, you know, the HR, the pensions in the UK, things like that you become liable to doing all of those things, and providing all those kind of benefits, sick leave. That's not to say that someone then can, you know, upskill themselves and you support them as an employer, and then they leave to move on, because it's a natural progression for people to like work with you and then move on. We've all done it when we were working for someone else, right? So it's a similar concept. So when you think about, you know, you put all your energy into hiring someone, giving them the best benefits to make sure that they're happy, and then 6 months down the line they might be like, oh, hang on a minute, I don't want to be here anymore, I want to go to another agency, or I want to freelance on my own. So you've just got to think carefully about if that's something that you're prepared to do, as well as like giving you the sleepless nights of when the float isn't quite there or the leads haven't come quite in. You're still paying for that person as well as your own mortgage. So
it sounds like you've got to have a mentality, you know, like an entrepreneurial thing, mindset, right? And I don't feel like I have that. Like that makes me like feel like I've got acid in my stomach trying to like rely on like all of those people doing the pensions, and it feels like a lot. And I think that is definitely something you've got to bear in mind. That's such a great point, Krishna. That was awesome. I am going to take us over into the Q&A, but I'd like us to still, if you think of anything else, like that's what I want this next round to be, just for us to say, hey, I feel like this wasn't asked of me, or I really want to talk about that. So I just bought his course, so good to know. Cool. Right, guys, thank you so much for joining. I know I didn't get to ask you everything that I wanted to, but I hope it's been helpful for some people that want to do the model of an agency. And I learned loads, so that's great, and that's the only reason why I hosted this thing. I'll see you all in the Q&A now. It might take me a minute to add everybody.